Good morning. It is 12:18 p.m. and I call this meeting of the Business, Finance, and Facilities Committee to order.
Good boy.
Angela, will you please take roll?
Chair Downs.
Here.
Vice Chair Boylan.
Aye.
Regent Arascata.
There.
Regent Brooks.
Here.
Regent Goodman.
I'm gonna be right here.
Regent Tarkanian.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Angela. I'll now move to agenda item 1, public comment, and this is public comment related to topics on the
You want a video?
BFF
Not yet.
agenda.
Let's move the table.
For those who would like to call in and offer public comment, please dial 669-444-9171 and enter the meeting ID 928-4944-5069 and the passcode 555555. Is there any public comment at GBC?
There is no public comment at GBC at this time.
Thank you. Is there any public comment at the system office in Las Vegas?
There is no public comment in Las Vegas.
Thank you. Is there any public comment here at UNR? Please state your name for the record and spell your last name.
Hello everyone. My name is Tania Akhtar. My last name spelled A-K-T-E-R. I am a fourth-year PhD student in the Department of Chemistry at the University of Nevada, Reno. I am also serving as the president of the Graduate Student Association. I'm here today to advocate for agenda item number 12, which pertains to the Future University Village project aimed at expanding affordable housing options for graduate students, faculties, and staffs. I believe that this is important for graduate students, especially out-of-state students and international graduate students who need housing near the campus when they arrive, as they may not have immediate access to personal transportation. It is often difficult for students to find affordable housing during this peak rental period, and they need support from the university in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Board. My name is Fatima Azmi, last name spelled A-Z-M-E-E for the record. I am the former Vice President of Internal Affairs at the Graduate Student Association, and I am here this afternoon instead of at Lake Tahoe because I recognize the need and how important this purchase for agenda item number 12 will be for my colleagues and former colleagues and the graduate students at the University of Nevada, Reno. The president has worked really hard to ensure affordable housing for our students and recognizes the need and the access it will provide to the graduate students on this campus. It will make transportation available and access to the university more available as well. Also, in this time of high inflation, high rent prices, this purchase and the availability for this area, for the students, will not only make access to education more affordable for our students, it will also make the community safer by extending the reaches of this university farther. I really would like to voice my strong support for this agenda item. I've served on the Graduate Student Association for 3 years. And in those 3 years, with the efforts of this board, the graduate students were able to see that stipend increase. It is not enough. We need more affordability for these graduate students. And thank you to the Regents who helped us pass those resolutions. And with this new housing for graduate students, we are one step closer to making their lives a little bit easier. Graduate students, I'd like to remind this board that they are the in-between for everybody on campuses. We work with the students, we work with the faculty, we provide world-class education to the R1 and to these R1 institutions at this university and also at UNLV too. So thank you, board, for your time. Again, please support agenda item 12.
Thank you. Next.
For the record, my name is Madhusudan Manjunatha. My last name spelled Manjunatha. I am a PhD student and also I'm a graduate research assistant and in the Department of Agriculture, Veterinary and Rangeland Sciences in Cabner at the University of Nevada, Reno. I'm here to support the agenda item number 12 regarding the increase of availability and affordable housing for graduate students, faculty, and staff. As an international student, when I was looking for housing after my admission here at UNR, and I found that available housing was leased out, and I had to look for off-campus housing, and it was especially difficult for me as I did not know anybody in this city. Now that I am living off campus, but I am paying around 38% of my salary to housing, which I think it's a lot more than I'm willing to pay or offer. So altogether, I strongly believe that we as graduate students need more affordable housing on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Dr. Bill Robinson, Chair of the University Faculty Senate. I'm not going to ask you to vote no on a couple of items that are on here, but we're up to $28 million in 2 meetings that UNLV is asking you to authorize for them to spend, and 0 of it is to improve the safety situation on campus. And we've dealt with that and dealt with that and dealt with that, and $28 million in 2 meetings, but none of it for safety. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
Kent Irvin, ERVIN, Nevada Faculty Alliance. Thank you. Good afternoon. There are several important items on today's committee agenda. Agenda item 5, the space utilization report. We really appreciate the effort to restore the utilization report. It was suspended for good reason during the pandemic, but it is needed for good planning. Classroom usage may well have changed permanently in the post-pandemic world. As new buildings are considered, we need to know what the actual needs are and well. Agenda item 3, the fiscal exceptions report is exceptional. We really appreciate the enhanced cover explanations, but it is mainly exceptional because of the magnitude of several items. These need scrutiny and explanation. A $22 million deficit has appeared at the UNLV athletics program despite a successful football season and bowl appearance. What were the cost overruns? What is being done to ensure that the deficit does not impact the education budget? There are 2 other exceptions over $6 million each related to UNLV capital projects. The special projects fundings accounts deficit of $17 million at UNR and $60 million at UNLV are well exceptional. Items 9, 10, and 12 also are major items that need full explanations and careful consideration. These reports that you get in this committee provide Regents with the opportunity to provide meaningful oversight over the fiscal matters. Despite the time of day, these items really require full discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment here at UNR? Seeing none. SCS, is there any public comment on the phone?
There are no online callers at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We will move on to the item number 2, minutes. The committee will consider approval of the February 29th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Move to
I
approve.
make a motion to approve.
I have a motion from Regent Boylan, and do I have a second?
Move
Yes,
to
sir.
second.
I have a second from Regent Goodman. Any questions? Any comments? Take the vote. All in favor? I vote aye myself.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, passes. Okay. Moving on then to item number 3, the third quarter fiscal year 2023-2024 fiscal exceptions, self-supporting budgets.
Thank you, Regent Towns. Chris Fatone, NSHE CFO for the record. The report before you, item number 3, is the fiscal exceptions report for the third quarter, and this report has been organized for you into several categories. I don't want to read the whole report to you. Pages 3 and 4 are operating program accounts. Those are essentially accounts that did end the quarter in a deficit. There's explanations in here regarding those programs. Page 5 of the materials, the second section of the report, are capital project accounts. There are a couple project accounts on there from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and you'll have further on your agenda, item 9, a request related to the 2 projects related to the Paradise Camp, the Paradise Campus. The third section is the special project funding accounts. I would note that those are not operating accounts, but those are accounts that the campuses are using the carry forward balances of their self-supporting funds to make strategic investments, and those investments are explained in the materials there for you, as well as some of the returns that they're returning those funds from. And then the last section of the report are those accounts that end the quarter in a negative balance, but just due to timing differences. Those are the most significant number of accounts. Pages 7 through 13 include all of those. Again, I didn't want to read the whole report to you, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on those materials.
Thank you. Any questions for Vice Chancellor Vitone?
Comment?
Regent Iriscata?
Thank you, Chair Downs. No, Mr. Vitone, thank you so much for pointing out that on page 5, there was a significant deficit, and that I believe it was 6.6. I'm taking that off the top of my head. Million that needs to be identified by UNLV. So thank you very much, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed later on in the agendas. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm concerned about what Dr. Kent Irvin, I think this was the one he was talking about, exceptional stuff. Could Mr. Vitone explain or answer what he meant by that? That it was exceptional? Am I right, or am I at the wrong one?
Chris Fatone, Regent Boylan, yes, you're correct. This is the report that Mr. Irvin was referencing, and exceptional
Yes.
Just, I think he was noting that there's several items with balances that were of interest, which, again, I think they're highlighted in the memo. Several of those are those strategic investment accounts that are discussed in the memo, and the athletics account balances that are in the report today, and with the athletic report on the main agenda later in the meeting, and the project accounts that are also addressed on item number 9 in your materials.
Yeah, I was really concerned with the athletics report. So, like I always say, I'm a simple man, and that kind of threw me. So I didn't quite understand why we are the way we are with the athletics report. Is there a simple answer?
Chris Fatone, first I would say the reports on the accounts are on this report because this report is intended to inform the board of the accounts that have the program accounts that end the quarter in a deficit, and that is why those accounts appear on this report today. On the full board agenda is a discussion on the athletic reports specifically, and so I know that the campus would be available to entertain those questions on the program. Just wasn't sure if you wanted to discuss that on this report or save that for the athletic reports when the full board is reviewing those.
Oh, okay. Thank you. No worries. We do it with the full board. Then thank you so much, Mr. Vitone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's Vice Chair Boylan. Sorry, didn't properly address you. Any other questions? Any other questions for the Vice Chancellor Vitone? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, third quarter fiscal year 2023, 2024 budget transfers, state-supported or self-supporting operating budgets.
Thank you, Chair Downs. Chris Fatone, System CFO. Item number 4 is the third quarter budget transfers and this report's organized into 2 sections for you. The top section includes transfers that are actually operational transfers, several there from the University of Nevada, Reno. In particular, I'd call the ones in the middle of the report to your attention. Those are related to a medical school program with the state Medicaid program and their clinical partner, Renown. These are actually related to agreements that were discussed in, I think it was March of '23, and this is now coming through in the actual agreements and requiring these budget adjustments. These are also on the agenda with the Interim Finance Committee because they relate to those programs. The second half of the report on the bottom of the page are budget transfers similar to what you saw in the last quarterly report, and those relate to just budget adjustments managed through the central UNR budget office as they manage their COLA adjustments and other fringe adjustments related to those to the shortfalls that we talked about with the COLA. All of these are adjustments that are within the state budgets. They're just adjusting budgets within the accounts at UNR. And I'll just pause there if there's any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Vice Chancellor Fatone?
Actually, I just have a quick one.
Regent
I don't know if I should refer this over to President Sandoval or Dean Hoffman, but on the operation budget adjustments, the transfer to create a budget for the partnership of UNR School of Medicine and Renown and academic support of $12 million. Just a little bit more of a detail on that. Is that possible? Or CFO Klinger, thank you.
It's Paul Hauptman, H-A-U-P-T-M-A-N for the record, Dean at the University of Nevada, Reno School of Medicine. Regent Arascata, the academic support payment goes to support multiple programs on the campus. And it's vital to our mission, and it's actually one of the bonuses of having this affiliation agreement.
That is a perfect way to summarize the whole option. The relationship between University of Nevada, Reno School of Medicine and Renown Medical seems to continue to flourish. Is that what I'm reading here?
That's correct, Regent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for either Vice Chancellor Fatone or, I'm going to say your name wrong.
Paul Hauptman.
Dean Hauptman, regarding these issues from the committee or from people not on the committee? No? Okay. Seeing as none, we'll move on then. Thank you. Moving on to the item number 5, NSHE space utilization model and reporting.
Thank you, Chair Downs. The item number 5 is I wanted to provide a little background on the system space reporting. This report requirement, I started working on this not long after I arrived into this position for this session's capital budget cycle, and rather soon heard some concerns from the campuses that we were late in getting started preparing the report, and there were some challenges in terms of the amount of data necessary to put it together and concerns about the timing and how it's used in that process. So I thought I'd first start with going back to what is in the board's policies related to space utilization and reporting, because it is fairly limited. The board bylaws, Title I of the handbook, provide that the Business, Finance, and Facilities Committee has responsibility for review and recommend to to the board a system space utilization model and periodically review institution and system-wide space utilization data. It is based on that charge that there is a space utilization and space inventory report that is part of the capital budgeting process. That the actual structure of the report and requirements for the report is not otherwise in policy. It was adopted as a result of action of the committee in, I believe it was 2009 or 10, and I know I have this in the memo that was in the materials there. And since then, that report was prepared on a biennial basis for the committee, and it was to inform on utilization. The timing of the report and its presentation, I think, did not lend itself to actually being used in the state's capital prioritization process, because generally you're getting that report at the same time as you did. We discussed this a little bit at your special meeting on the 23rd. You're getting that report generally at the same time that you're getting the capital priorities. So talking to the business officers, we made the request to continue the report in 2024's cycle with the same format that was used in 2020, but it is a very, very high-level summary that is just space inventory. And so wanted to share this history of the source of the policy and recognize the policy does not prescribe space utilization protocols. It's simply a space utilization reporting requirement that was adopted by the board and being followed at that time. And the ask for what I would be interested in order to make this report more useful to both the board and productive for the campuses to prepare, is to have the opportunity to work with the campuses and in particular those that manage space on the campuses to make a recommendation, come back to the committee with a recommendation for a reporting format that will serve the purposes of serve some operational purposes for the campuses that are using the data in their space management, but also provide good information to the board in understanding the capital priorities and needs for the campuses. Looking to do that and adjust the reporting timeline so that it can be better utilized in the discussion around the capital prioritization process. So that would require kind of backing up the starting date of that process so that we can have the space data available sooner and present that in advance of the capital priority discussions. But that it was my interest in presenting this item today. And again, I didn't want to read the memo or go through the prior reports with you. They're linked in the memo. The report that you received a couple of weeks ago is only about 2 pages per campus. It's very limited, just the high level. Historically, that report was about 150 pages because it got into pretty significant level of detail for each campus, providing a lot of utilization data besides just the inventory. But it was very detailed, and I think again, it was. I think this is a case perhaps of the right answer being somewhere in the middle of that very summarized report that you've received the last 2 cycles and the more historically detailed one that was being used for about 10 years or so prior. So with that, I'll pause and take any questions.
So my experience in how the policy was put together was 2009, you said? It followed the old funding formula, and with the new funding formula, the report didn't serve as much of a purpose. As a consequence of how that was developed or applied in some schools, I won't say every school, you would have situations they wanted to show the classroom being utilized to a greater percentage. So if you had a room of 16 and a room of 30, you'd put 15 students in the room of 16 because it looked like you had more usage of that room, and then leave the other one empty. And so what I wanted to talk about with this is to first of all, acknowledge what's the purpose of this report now. Do we need all the detail, the hundreds of pages that are developed for it, or can the schools do less work to develop that report and then have the autonomy or the freedom to to assign rooms as they best serve student needs and faculty needs. So, if anyone has any questions for Vice Chancellor Vitone, I'd be happy to take those now. Yes, Regent Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. Regent Brooks, for the record, what you've outlined makes a lot of sense in terms of going back to the campuses and having more dialogue and conversation and updating the process of how this reporting gets done. And Chair, what you said makes sense as well in terms of revising. I think both of you are saying the same things. My only question is that in the way that this is being presented to us for possible action, it's the agenda item is the space utilization model and reporting, and the ask seems to be for the board to provide the guidance in moving this forward. And so in crafting a motion, is the motion merely, we're in support of the CFO going through the process of reevaluating the reporting process and then coming back to us? Is that the ask of the chair and the
Essentially,
CFO?
I have a motion suggestion.
All right.
If I can share that, if you want to hear this, so a motion to clarify board policy is specific to reporting requirements and does not specify campus space allocation or scheduling protocols. Now, we request Vice Chancellor Vitone to work with the business officers and the campuses to revisit the space reporting requirements and return to the December meeting with an updated reporting proposal, including the reporting timeline and objectives.
Okay. Regent Brooks, for the record, that's a good sized motion, Chair. I'm wondering if perhaps it could be something as simple, and if it works for the chair's purpose and the CFO's purpose, is simply just to approve that the CFO work with the campuses and come back with a reformulated reporting method for space utilization at a later date. I just want to make sure that suffices what the intent is for this item.
Yes. The intent also extends to campuses shouldn't be developing their classroom assignment protocols based off of trying to maximize some numbers on their report. It should be based off of student needs and faculty needs.
Thank you, Chair, for the clarification. Regent Brooks, again, for the record. So, CFO, if I were to ask, perhaps some of the things that you're looking for also is just to come back to the board with a revamped model and then have that model approved after you've conducted all the conversations you'd like to have on the campus. Is that a fair way to assess what you're looking to do?
Chris Vitone, yes.
Thank you. If it's okay with you, Chair, I'd like to make a motion then to approve the Chief Financial Officer to reevaluate the model used for space utilization and come back to the board at a later date with a new reporting process.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? I'll call the issue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Any opposed? No. opposed?
Not to the opposed.
Okay.
No. My button is slow here.
That's fine, thank you. Okay, the motion carries, thank you. And we're on to item number 6, handbook revisions for delinquent accounts.
Again, Chris Vitone, CFO for the record. Item 6 is a proposed update for the handbook delinquent account policy. This policy was recently updated in 2023, at that time to be responsive to concerns regarding the release of transcripts and trying to encourage opportunities for students to access their transcripts to be able to pursue employment or continue their education. This policy is before you today because at this time there's Department of Ed regulations that go into effect on July 1st. And those regulations go a little further than our policy update did a year ago. Under the requirements that'll be effective July 1st, campuses are not able to hold transcripts for students who received federal Title IV funds for any semester in which their balance has been resolved. The challenge in the Department of Ed regulations is that it parses out individual semesters and it focuses only on students that receive Title IV funds. For the system, parsing out transcripts on a semester basis is not something that our systems are set up to do. And so releasing partial transcripts, official partial transcripts is not something that we're able to implement. In addition, we don't like implementing policies that treat students differently based on their financial aid status. So the policy before you updates the policy for all students. It eliminates transcript holds generally just because we can't parse out semesters that are paid versus semesters that aren't in releasing transcripts in that manner. The other significant update to it that I want to draw your attention to is the increase in the threshold at which we would apply registration holds. And the policy is recommending an increase from $100 that was put in place also about 10 years ago. I think it was updated in 2010. Updating that from $100 to $500. While the policy update was vetted with campuses and discussed rather heavily before it was finalized for the board materials, there has been, continuing discussion among the campuses, both presidents and business officers, regarding that increase from $100 to $500, and in particular a concern for the two-year institutions and the state university, that $500 threshold had different implications for those institutions than it might for the two R1 universities, where the average charges for those students are significantly higher than at the two-year institutions in the state university. So I do present this today and ask your consideration and approval of the policy with one modification for your consideration, if you would, is to allow the policy to be updated as presented with the threshold for the registration hold to be $200 for the two-year institutions and state university and $500 for the R1s. And with that, I'll pause and see if there's any questions.
Are there any questions? Yes. Regent Arascata.
All the business officers were in agreement with this?
Yes.
Done?
Yes, Regent Brooks.
Thank you. Regent Brooks for the record. Can you please share with us any knowledge that you might have in terms of where these fees are coming in from? In other words, if somebody at CSN, we've moved the threshold now to $200, where do we see that $200 hindrance? What I'm asking for is, where's the money from? Where is this derived that there is a fee that a student owes to the campus?
Chris Fatone for the record. So these represent balances that a student did not resolve before the end of their term. So a student may sign up for a payment plan as part of the registration process that defers their payments, spreads them out over the term. A student will be enrolled and may not complete all those payments. Students may have anticipated financial aid, have aid then that they may not be eligible, they were not eligible for as anticipated, it does not disperse, they may have a balance that carries through after they complete the semester. So these are charges that the student incurred for enrollment, but were not resolved. There may be other circumstances where a student did receive federal financial aid, withdrew from the university. There's a process there, depending on the timing in which the student withdrew, that if it's too early in the semester, the institution has to return funds to the program, even if those funds were dispersed to the student. In those cases, that may be an additional receivable in addition to the fees that the campus actually imposed on the registration. But the balances are just remaining balances from the student's enrollment in their academic program.
Got it. Regent Brooks for the record. And I guess the next question then is, and I understand the business officers, based on Regent Arascata's question, have all agreed to this. I'm wondering, is that enough? Is $200 the limit based on the increase of cost for student registration, book supplies, and everything else? Understanding that there is a repayment process or program that institutions would go through to suffice any outstanding balances with students. It seems like as the cost of education increases, perhaps that threshold may work today, but I don't know if it works in a couple of years.
Chris Fatone for the record. So the increase from $100 to $200 is actually fairly similar to percentage-wise the change in the registration fees for the two-year institutions from the last time the threshold was updated. It's just slightly more than that. The policy does include an expectation that we would look at this policy periodically in particular interest in that threshold. So we have not had a practice of updating that threshold very, very frequently, but I am certainly sensitive to the impact that our increased fees may have on where that threshold hits in terms of what an average balance is. And I think that's actually why when we were taking the time to do the update this time to comply with the Department of Ed regs, we also went further to try to increase that threshold to correspond to the increase that has occurred in fees since that time.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from non-committee members? Is there a motion to approve the delinquent accounts fees increase?
Make a motion to approve, sir.
Yes, thank you. Is there a second?
With the revision or no?
Yes.
With the revision.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Chair Boylan and a second from Regent Arascata. Any discussion on the item? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? None opposed? Okay. So motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, we have the use of capital improvement fee for MSM roof replacement, UNLV.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Keith Whitfield, President of UNLV. What we're requesting for is some work on our Marjorie Barrick Museum building. It is home to both the museum as well as, believe it or not, radiology labs that are in one section of the building. The building will be undergoing some much-needed maintenance improvements and capacity enhancements. This will require roof replacement to protect the structural integrity of the building, as well as valuable equipment and artwork that are inside. In an effort to minimize disruptions to the lab's daily activities, manage costs effectively, and continue the university's educational and outreach functions, UNLV plans to undergo the roof replacement concurrently with the maintenance improvements. To replace the roof, UNLV requests approval to expend an estimated $2.1 million of capital improvement fees. With this in mind, I offer it for your consideration.
Are there any questions from the committee on this issue? Any questions from members not on the committee? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Regent Arascata. Is there a second to the motion? Second to the motion?
I'll second it, sir.
Thank you. We have a second from Vice Chair Boylan. Any discussion?
Quick question, discussion.
Yes.
What is the square footage that's being re-roofed? It's a big building for $4 million.
I have phoned a friend. Dave Fromer can try to provide some additional information for that. Dave?
Good afternoon. For the record, David Fromer, Associate Vice President, Planning, Construction, and Real Estate at UNLV.
Thank you for the question, Regent Arskada. I don't have the exact square footage of the roof on me. I can get that information to you. However, I can say that in the planning phase of this project, the roofing cost replacement, which includes as part of the roofing, and this is a common component of roofing, also includes some fall protection when people are working on the roof for tie-off points and railings, things like that. I will get that information on the square footage of the roof, but the costs of that, or estimated costs of that, have been essentially evaluated through a construction manager at risk pre-construction process. So the costs we're coming, or the funding we're requesting, are tied to actual cost estimates based on a planning phase of work.
One more question. Were there other bids, or was it one roofing company, or were there multiple bids?
Again, David Fro for the record. So at this point, it's a pre-construction phase of work, so it's in an estimating process. So the construction manager, who is kind of over all of the subcontractors, does an estimating process. When they go out to bid for us to tie in a guaranteed maximum price, the requirement is to get a minimum of 3 bids of subcontractors. So there will be competitive bidding for that roofing project.
I would appreciate the follow-up. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Same motion.
Any other questions prior until, seeing none, we will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, myself. All opposed signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next is item number 8, use of capital improvement fee, IT infrastructure, UNLV.
Thank you, Chair. And again, for the record, Keith Whitfield, President of UNLV. UNLV's IT infrastructure has been historically underfunded. It's resulted in outdated systems that hamper university operations, compromise security, and limit our ability to comply with federal regulations and standards. Despite attempts to resolve these issues with one-time funding solutions over the years, the fast-paced evolution of technology requires ongoing updates. These are absolutely essential. They're not just standard improvements, but they're essential for basic operations. Because of this, UNLV is requesting approval to allocate $7.5 million in capital improvement funds to fund the UNLV IT infrastructure. This funding request aims to address critical gaps and opportunities within our current IT framework to enable a transformative leap in our university's capabilities and performance. Modernizing our IT infrastructure is not just an operational requirement, but a crucial strategic step that improves several aspects of our technology landscape and significantly strengthens our capabilities in various university operations. This request is for $1.5 million per year for 5 years. With that in mind, I offer this for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, President Whitfield. Are there any questions from the committee? Regent Arascata?
What the ask is, and it's a hard ask of $7.5 million. It's capital improvement funds for, as you mentioned, for over 5 years. $7.5 million over 5 years, and we're provided with a 2-page request that touches upon the investment in the IT infrastructure for UNLV. For me, President Whitfield, I can't speak on behalf of anybody else. I just don't feel I have enough information compared to what you have, what you're asking for, what that $7.5 million is going to be focusing on, going to be providing. I know you have access success, and there's other items on here to fulfill expansion goals. But for me, this is a hard ask for $7.5 million, where I don't have the full gravity of everything that's going to be considered with that 7.5. I think this is, I need to have more food for the bite, and I just don't have enough here.
Let me ask my CFO to join me to see if he can provide some additional details. Casey Wyman?
Yep. For the record, Casey Wyman, CFO UNLV.
So one point of clarification from your previous question, MSM square footage is 78,000. So we were able to pull that up real quick for you. And additionally, in association with the request for IT infrastructure, we actually have our CIO at the Las Vegas office, Mr. Kavanchor. And so he's going to join the podium there to give you the specifics associated with this. And I think from the non-technical, because I'm not a technical person, this is the back-end cabling infrastructure associated with providing that piece of it. But he's now at the podium. So,
Well, I appreciate this, Mr. Wyman, but why are we receiving it now in a presentation, but not with the briefing papers in which we have in front of us? Because it'd be helpful if we get a background of everything before we have a couple 1 minute 2 minute presentation, and yet we don't have any of the information in front of us. We're looking at $7.5 million. Please continue. I'm frustrated.
go ahead, Kavanch.
Okay. Good afternoon, Kıvanç Öner for the record. I'm the Vice President for Digital Transformation and CIO at UNLV. We have a very complex network of IT infrastructure, and we have different levels of funding for everything. We have state-supported operating budgets, student fees, and to support our IT infrastructure. It is, and I'm in the position now over 18 months, and we are working towards a more streamlined of being able to provide a sustainable projections of what we need when. For us to be able to provide continued improvements, we have to work within each, especially with the different audits, we have to work within the reality of how we can support these infrastructure improvements and investments within the rules of that. And so we can provide a lot of things. We just didn't want to give you something that we will focus on that. We have Wi-Fi needs to support our students. We have building rewiring. We have deferred maintenance needs. And there are a lot of those, and we wanted to provide you a lot of information to support these needs, but also we didn't want to put something that corners us to use this for that, and then puts us in a position where we cannot use the existing resources for those also, if that helps.
Thank you.
But more than happy to provide as many information.
Additional information would be very helpful.
Are there any other questions on this item? Yeah, Regent Brooks.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Regent Brooks, for the record, I think just to echo some of the concerns that Regent Arascata has, look, it's really a matter of understanding the details a little bit more clearly. And I can appreciate the increase in costs for IT development statewide, particularly at some of the largest campuses that we have. I still feel like this falls into something that we've spoken about before. This is a communications problem. This is an issue with the institution not providing enough information to the body so that as we come into a meeting, the body's very clear in terms of the needs of the institution to be able to support ongoing efforts. I don't know if we can, where the line is with having enough information to be able to assess an agenda item and too much information. I would say perhaps play with too much information and then maybe hear from members of the board that say, hey, maybe we don't need everything that you've provided, but here were the things that were helpful in guiding us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Regent Brooks. Regent Goodman.
Thank you. I understand the need for this kind of improvement. I know that it's vital to keep technology on the edge of where That's basically the root
Right.
of technology. I guess my concern is what Mr. Robinson had said earlier, and it's essentially that there are so many other things right now specific to security that need to be addressed. And so just a little bit more information is helpful. So my question to you is, what happens if we don't approve this? You know, how does that adversely affect our technology?
Thank you, ma'am. I believe Kavanch would be the correct person in response to that.
Kıvanç Öner, for the record, again, Vice President for Digital Transformation and CIO at UNLV. On our list of things that we have to provide, Wi-Fi and upgrading the infrastructure for our buildings is paramount, and that is on the top of our list. Now, I can go through some of those buildings. Physics building on our campus, the Thompson Beam Hall, the previous engineering building, the existing engineering building, and some additional buildings are on our list. The adverse effect, directly to answer your question, Regent Goodman, thanks for that question, is going to be for us to be able to not provide some of those security enhancements, even to be able to add additional cameras, additional things, even if we have those funding to support those. We have some infrastructure problems on campus, on different locations, outside or in buildings. If we cannot do these investments, we won't be able to install those cameras either. We won't be able to install those smart technologies to know when happens what, how do we communicate. So while these additional security technology is all good, we have to provide infrastructure to carry those technology to make it effective. So that's, and I can go a lot more in detail if you need, but I want to provide you that one impact.
No, thank you. That answers my question.
Chair Downs.
Yeah, Vice Chair Boylan.
Thank you, sir. How was this evaluation done and you came to this number? It's a big number. How was this done? Did you go in as a team to each building, to each area? And when did this evaluation start that tells you we need this amount of money to be spent and we are going to change and update these things, or we're just going to replace everything? You see what I'm saying? When did this start? Who started this? And how did you do this? I'd really like to know something of that.
Kıvanç Öner, for the record, Vice President of Digital Transformation and CIO at UNLV. It is a continuing work that we are at all times doing. We are reviewing our assets on campus. UNLV has over 100 buildings, and outside we are, we say this a lot, we are a mid-sized city in the nation. And basically, we go over these and look at the deficiencies in our infrastructure to support cutting-edge technology to our students, faculty, staff, and community. So that is part of our job. We have the experts, engineers, and others who go through this, identify, go over this. We have, and how do we come to that number is, I'm not going to put my CFO or president on the spot, but the numbers that we are asking is a lot more than this. I'll be honest with you. The numbers are, I think in the previous Board of Regents agenda, you had the capital investment, the legislative ask priorities. As IT infrastructure on that list, we have just $17 million in the next 2 years ask. But these are, to be honest, 1.5 million a year is going to help us improve. It's not going to make us full. It's not going to make us whole. We still need a lot more. But that was something that we were able to talk with our CFO and our president to, can we get at least this much? So that number is just something we believe that could be available. It's not necessarily cover everything.
I get you, and I thank you for that. And I really thank you for being honest. You know, you said you're being honest, so that's a good thing. It's good to know that with such a big amount and 1.5 million a year, that kind of sounds reasonable to me. It's the 7.5 million that threw me also. But thank you so much for your explanation. Appreciate it, sir.
Regent Brooks?
Thank you, Chair. Regent Brooks for the record. I appreciate the VP's digital transformation officer's remarks, because I'll just speak for myself and not the board or this committee. When institutions come to the board and ask for capital improvement, and those asks are large, we're wondering, is this the last ask for something specific? And we certainly had this conversation again at the last meeting, where had there been some additional foresight with another project, it would have set the board up for success. What I appreciate is the fact that this isn't going to be the stopping point. The 7.5 million is not the stopping point, it's the starting point. But it's being presented to the board as though this is what the institution needs to be able to complete the improvements regarding IT, knowing that they're going to have to come back and ask the board for more money. And to me, that's the frustrating part of this. The other interesting thing that was brought up was, it was brought up that to be able to enhance security, IT has to be enhanced first before new security cameras can come in and new technologies can be utilized on the campus to support security. That's nowhere in our briefing papers. The improvement for IT infrastructure as it relates to security is not anywhere, it's not part of the conversation until it was brought up by your VP. So I'll just ask the question direct, are part of these funds going towards the implementation of security enhancement at the institution? And whoever would be best qualified to answer that question, I'm not sure who to direct it to, but that's the question that I have. Thank you.
For the record, Casey Wyman, CFO, UNLV. So Regent Brooks, the direct answer is yes. When we execute safety and security requirements, they will have a back-end IT infrastructure component. These resources allow us to have a more secure and ready network. However, what I think you're trying to get at is, what are those specific security enhancements? And we're not quite ready to pull the trigger on those yet, because we are waiting for our committee to provide a recommendation in association with all of the other pieces. And so when that happens, we will eagerly go forward. I would assume network-enabled locks are going to be on there, security cameras, those types of things, and then this infrastructure support will be able to enable that in an expedited fashion.
Thank you, Regent Brooks, for the record. I appreciate that. So is it possible that it would make sense for this item to be tabled and brought back with an actual dollar amount that might be needed for not only the improvement of IT infrastructure on the campus, but also what that looks like in conjunction with improved security measures?
For the record, Casey Wyman, so while that is one part of the component, this is much larger in association outside of the safety and security, much more towards that enabling student success portion of it. We could, however, I would offer that I think this is much larger than just that safety and security component. Additionally, this is just the capital improvement portion. So within these resources, we have other resources that were set aside already to get after the safety and security requirements that will not require board approval. However, we could go forward and provide that as informational, obviously, to ensure the appetite is satisfied on that end.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Regent Brooks, for the record, again, I think for me, I'm missing some additional details that would be very helpful. with this particular agenda item, but I thank you for your time and all the information that you've provided. Thank you.
Are there any other?
Chairman
Regent
Down?
Good- Oh, yes, Regent Tarkanian.
I'd just like to note that I agree with what our regents have been saying. We need to have more specific information. How do we know what's going to exist 5 years from now as far as technology is concerned? It's moving so quickly now. And have we, as a determined how much was needed, somebody must have told me what was going to cost for that last year or so. And that's a concern of mine, number one. Number two, the emphasis on security, I think is very, very important. And that's just my comment. I thank you.
Thank you, Regent Tarkanian. McLean, just a second. I mean, I would like to say we do have options on this. We wanted to go forward with this. We could look at an annual reporting mechanism. We can look at a shorter time frame, and so we have several options. So, Regent Goodman.
Okay.
This is just my comment on this. I think I understand this stuff costs money, so it would be really beneficial if when we're doing this, if we get, okay, right now we can put a Band-Aid on it for 7.5 million, but in the long run, it's going to cost us 17 million. It's not like you need to do what you need to do, and I know that the VP down there is telling us this is what it's going to cost. Those kinds of pieces of information are important. We've recently passed something where, the capital improvements X amount of dollars, but the software wasn't included. So, for me, I think it's very important to have the full picture as we move forward. If there's software associated with it, great. If there's extra dollars that need to be incurred for capital improvement, and then whatever kind of information technology that we need that's associated with it that might come out of a different bucket, we need all those numbers. That's all it is just that transparency. It's helpful for us to know, all right, I'm voting for 7.5 right now, but I know that there's going to be another 10 coming back. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Chair? Do you
Yes.
mind? For the record, Interim Chancellor Charlton, I wanted to just thank the board members for their questions. Because this is a capital improvement request that does have a little bit different context for the approval level. For example, there's a certain amount that the institutions can expend immediately. There's a second process that does a 30-day review. I think that's about 1.2 million. And then this, because it is the larger item and it is coming over multiple years, this may be supplementing with other types of funding, especially when you're looking at technology and you're looking at the age of the buildings and even wireless. And even with the installation of cameras, which that technology can change along the way. It is a challenge, I think, for all of our institutions, and as they go out for bid on equipment, sometimes those levels even require a different level of I'm not going to get it right, internet availability or whatnot. So I appreciate the questions that the board is asking, so that as these types of expenditures come forward, and it may be only a piece or a factor of that, to ensure that level of extra detail and or advanced presentation of information, which we talked about just a couple of weeks ago, but to put in together all of the different elements. I know other institutions will be probably having the same level of engagement, but whether or not they're using their capital improvement to fund that, maybe they're using tech fee or something along those lines. This is helpful for me as well, and for the CFO. Thank you.
Regent Brooks.
Chair, I appreciate that, but I think I think I'm going to reserve any additional comments I have. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion, or is there a motion or that we have on this item? Regent Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. Regent Brooks for the record. Having heard the full presentation and still not feeling like we have enough detail, I'm going to make a motion that we either table this agenda item or bring it back at a specific date to be determined by the system office and board staff. Actually, let me rephrase that motion. The motion will be to bring this item back at a time determined through with the aid of board staff and the system office.
Okay, so we have a motion to bring this back.
Second.
We have a second to the motion. Any further discussion? Regent Goodman?
I have a question for the VP. What does this do, and for the Chancellor, what does this do as we move forward? If we push this back, does it jeopardize the funds in any way, number one? And number two, does it put our students at a disadvantage for the fall semester moving forward?
So for the record, Patty Charlton, Interim Chancellor, so the funding, there would not be an expiration of the funding as capital improvement does sit outside of the state operating budget. But in regards to the timing and the needs to improve the network infrastructure or security measures at the campus, particularly for the fall, I would ask that UNLV respond.
I defer to Kavanch.
Kavanch Öner, for the record, Vice President for Digital Transformation and CIO. A quick response to that is what deferring means for us is because we are dealing with multiple resources of accounts, we won't be able to maybe enhance and proceed with some of our projects. What I mean by that is, for example, the TB building rewiring is currently estimated to be $1.6 million. It wasn't going to be enough for this one additional $1.5 million allowed, but it was going to add to that pocket for us to be able to go out there and bid that and start that process. We have the physics building rewiring, and we are talking about 25 plus years wiring that cannot even hold access points in a way that we can provide the right level of Wi-Fi. That is a $1.2 million project. For outsides, we have many of these projects in line waiting for us to start, and delaying it basically takes one of those buildings for the next semester, next year, off the shelf for us. So that's, we will of course have to rework this prioritization, which building, how, and everything. That's always what we do. We are always working with the deficit that we are dealt with. So that's where we are.
Thank you.
Regent Boylan, or Vice Chair Boylan?
Thank you, Chair. And this may be something that others know, but in this modern technology and age where we have so much wireless stuff, why are we talking about rewiring the buildings? Couldn't our wireless technology take care of all that labor and cables and blah, 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 rewiring all this? Can one of you explain that to me? Because that sounds really expensive, the rewiring. But with wireless, come on.
Kavanch Öner, for the record, Vice President of Digital Transformation and CIO at UNLV. Wireless is definitely a utility right now for our students, faculty, and staff. And wireless technology, especially with the number of endpoints increased, even many of us are now carrying our watches, phones, others, laptops, and the devices. It creates a density problem, and that basically means we need to have more access points. It's similar to at your houses, residential, you need to have more wireless, but that requires to be able to put all of those access points in different places to enable us to provide that level of density for us to have many more access points. And all those access points are actually wired because once hundreds of devices are connected to an access point, it requires a bigger bandwidth, larger bandwidth that is only carried through wired. So yes, wired is still the backbone of wireless technology.
Thank you, that makes sense. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So yes, Regent Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your indulgence. I want to withdraw my initial motion and restate the motion. What I'd like to do is,
I'm looking legal, and I want to do it correctly, so if you're going to
Sure.
withdraw the motion.
Chris Nielsen for the record. I believe we need a second to withdraw, I believe.
Withdraw.
Okay, thank you. Proceed.
I'd like to restate the motion so that agenda number 8, use of capital improvement infrastructure, will come before the board at the special meeting in August.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to bring this item back to the August special meeting. Any more discussion about this? I'll call the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 I almost wonder if I should do a roll call vote on that one. Okay, so aye. I'll vote aye as well. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, thank you. Now we're on to number 9, use of capital improvement fee for the Paradise Campus, UNLV. President Whitfield.
Thank you, Chair. And for the record, Keith Whitfield, President of UNLV. At the December 2022 Regents meeting, UNLV received approval to sell the property located at 851 East Tropicana Avenue. As part of that planned sale, UNLV was responsible for clearing the property prior to demolition and relocating the departments that were housed on that property. That was going to require 2 renovations of that Paradise campus. Funding from these renovations were to be from the revenues received from the sale, but the original buyer has since chosen not to purchase the property. Because of this, UNLV has 2 project deficit accounts reported on the quarterly fiscal exceptions report, totaling approximately $11.6 million. To remediate these deficits, UNLV is requesting authorization to expend capital improvement fee over the course of 3 years. With this in mind, I offer this for your consideration.
Thank you, President Whitfield. And this item is, if I can say this, it's related to the next one, which is a partial sale of the
Yes, sir.
the same property. But focusing on number 9, any questions for the President? Okay, any discussion about this item? Regent Brooks.
Regent Brooks for the record. In terms of this specific agenda item, President Whitfield, is there monies that have been already allocated for this based on previous, based on anything that the institution would have done regarding this property prior to today?
For the record, Casey Wyman, just to be clear on that question, so you're asking, did we already spend money initially? Is that what, I'm just trying to understand what you're asking, sir.
I appreciate that, Regent Brooks, for the record. What I'm trying to understand is the 11 million. Is this already committed?
Understood.
And because of things that have transpired prior to today?
Yes. For the record, Casey Wyman. So yes, the Paradise Campus was, we moved those units out into another space that needed to be renovated. So that was part of the 11 million. We demoed the Paradise Campus. That was part of the 11 million. So that is running now the deficit that we had talked about. So to Regent Downs' point, there's the follow-on item, which will then turn around through the sale of portions of Paradise that will repay the capital improvement. So this is a little bit of a domino game that's a little wonky, I guess is the only way to say it.
Regent Brooks, for the record, thank you for that explanation. This is for the backfill of relocation of departments. Would it be less expensive, since this has already been demolished, to just put a building there, to build?
For the record, Casey Wyman, so the following item is a request to sell a portion of it. The remaining portion of that is to be determined. One of those options potentially could be to build a building on there to accommodate future academic needs.
Regent Brooks, again, just so that I understand, the demolition that took place, UNO still owns that property. And so could not a building just simply be erected there that would be less expensive than the $11 million ask?
For the record, Casey Wyman, so without having a full understanding of the size and scope of the building, we could put a $11 million structure there, correct? But fully understanding our engineering building was $150 million. Our future education building is estimated, into the 60s to 80 million. So again, depending on the size and scope of what we would want to put there, would determine the price. But 11 million would certainly get us planning dollars to move forward for that.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Any other question? Yes, Regent Goodman.
How large is the parcel?
Phone a friend, stand by.
Good afternoon, David Fromer for the record. The parcel is about 10.18 acres for the Paradise campus. So that is the parcel that's been made available. And I just want to add a little information to VP Wyman's comment to Regent Brooks' question. The replacement space to relocate the functions from the Paradise campus was in the range of 40,000 square feet. We renovated a building we had purchased on Maryland Parkway for that purpose. It would be far more expensive to build a building of that size than the cost of purchasing and renovating the building that we used to relocate them. Probably at least double is my rough estimate.
Are there any other questions related to this item? So my understanding is that, correct me if I misunderstand, but you've already put out the $11 million, and now you're looking to refund yourselves with that, with the capital improvement fund, and then on number 10, if we get to that, if we sell that piece of property, that money would then go to compensate back to the fund.
For the record, Casey Wyman, yes, you have that correct.
Okay. I think if we want to go forward with this, we should consider noting that during the approval that any proceeds from the sale of the Paradise campus, whole or part, from item number 10, should first repay the capital improvement fund, then return the funds expended on the demolition of the Paradise campus to that category, to the deficit. So, is there any interest in proceeding with this?
Questions, sir?
Yes, Vice Chair Boylan.
Thank you. You make me feel so important. Thank you.
You are important.
Vice. Oh, thank you. You're too kind. Well, I'm just curious. We cleared out this land. We took down it was an old elementary school. We had classes and buildings and everything there. And now we want to go back and build again something. And can someone help me with that? What are we trying to do here with this money if we get it? If UNLV gets it, we're going to sell part of it to make a building because it didn't sell to the person who was going to buy it. So now we want more money to put up another building. Am I missing something?
For the record, go ahead, sir.
I'll let you go ahead and explain. I mean, I have my understanding is that we're not going to build something else there. We already spent money somewhere else, but please go ahead and.
For the record, Casey Wyman. So the follow-on item to this is to sell a portion of this to the boring company to work through that piece, which will leave us roughly just over 7 acres. And those 7 acres is still be determined of what we're going to utilize those for, whether we erect another building, whether we push it into a business development to generate additional revenue. So still to be determined on that end. But it does have the options should we need additional space. I think the biggest limitation associated with it from an academic standpoint, it is across a rather busy highway. And so we'd want to make sure that we put the right building there if we choose to do that.
Thank you, but I have one follow-up question. I remember this discussion when the boring company was going to make their building just across the street on the actual campus in front of the Thomas and Mack Center. So now if you're thinking, and have you decided to sell it to them, do we get any benefits from that? Does UNLV and the students, do they even at least get discount tickets to go ride in those nice wee little cars? I asked this question then when this came up last year. So did we ask any favors or did we request any discounts, not for ourselves, but for students at least? Staff and faculty, sure, I'm all for that, but especially for students, did we get any discounts?
Vice Chair Boylan, I'm just going to jump in here. Chris Nielsen for the record. I just want to caution you that I believe we're kind of getting outside of the scope of this agenda item. The scope really does not include the circumstances for the contemplated sale. Really, the issue at number 9 is just whether or not this committee is going to approve the use of these capital improvement fees for the purposes of this sale that fell through, essentially.
Oh, thank you. I'm fine with that. You're just as sharp as Mr. Wixom. You caught me in time. Thank you so much.
So this item is going to be specifically about them using the capital improvement fund to reimburse the costs, the expenditures they've had to demolish the current facility and to renovate another facility that housed those purposes. So do we have any more discussion about this item? It is related to the next one, but let's focus on this one, then we can talk about the next one next. So is there a motion? Is there any more discussion? I am feeling like, no, yes, okay. Regent Goodman.
I feel like we're always in this position where we're sitting here and we're trying to do what's best for the university, and we're kind of doing it with one arm behind our back because of the fact that I want to do this. I see the need. I see selling to the 2 point whatever parcel, 2.35 acre parcel, to get some of that money back. I understand what you're doing. I respect this business decision, but we need to be more transparent. We need to know this stuff ahead of time. But with all of that said, I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? I can second? Really? Okay, I'll second the motion. Didn't know that was allowed. Things I learn every day. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this item?
Yep.
Yes, Regent Brooks.
Thank you, Regent Brooks, for the record. So just for clarification purposes, the tie-in between these items, not getting into the next one, but this was part of a fail-safe method in case something perhaps maybe hypothetically coming up in the very near future doesn't get approved. And so that the allocation of these funds would be used for that fail-safe if for some reason another agenda item wouldn't come to fruition. Is that the way that we're understanding it?
For the record, Casey Wyman, yes. So these resources are being approved out of that capital improvement, and then that balances out the deficit that we have, and then pending any other future conversations or decisions, that would be, so we're at a clean slate of 0 going into that now.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Wouldn't the reversal then of the items have maybe been beneficial?
Yeah.
Just, maybe I'll just make the statement. The items seem to be a little bit backwards for the board to be able to move in a manner in which would best suit the institution. I don't have any further statements or questions, Chair. Thank you.
Any more discussion on this item, on the motion?
It's not us.
I'll call for the vote. Should we do a roll call vote on this one? Regent Arascata.
I apologize. Clarity of the motion, please. That's easy.
So the motion is to approve using these funds to cover the deficit that was incurred by proceeding with these projects. Is that correct? Okay. So we'll call for the vote. Is this, I'm asking some guidance here. Should we do a roll call vote on this? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Does Angela run that? Or is that Carrie? Okay.
Chair Downs.
Yes.
Vice Chair Boylan.
Yes.
Regent Ariscotta.
No.
Regent Brooks.
No.
Regent Goodman.
Yes.
Regent Tarkanian.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'd like to take a 5-minute break. I'm sorry that things are running so late, and we will have the committee members get lunch first. We'll just do 5 minutes. We'll be back to the meeting and do a working lunch here. Thank you. Okay, let's get started here. We're going to resume the meeting of the Business Finance Facilities Committee meeting to agenda item number 10, which is the sale of a portion of the real property located at 851 East Tropicana Avenue, the former UNLV Paradise Campus location. So this is related to the last item. So this is the corner 2.35 acres that they're going to propose the sale to the Boring Company. So President Whitfield.
Thank you, Chair. And for the record, Keith Whitfield, President of UNLV. At the May 2023 Regents meeting, UNLV was granted the ability to sell 1.3 acres of land on the Maryland campus to the Boring Company for the Vegas Loop. Since that time, a new property has become available that UNLV and the Boring Company has decided as a more suitable alternative to the UNLV Maryland campus site. This property, which was approved at the December 2022 Regents meeting, was to be sold to the Clark County Department of Aviation, but became available in January of this year when the Department of Aviation ultimately decided against purchasing it. So UNLV is requesting to sell approximately 2.35 acres of this land with the potential of a larger portion once the final property boundaries are determined upon final assessment, as well as to grant a surface easement located at 851 East Tropicana Avenue, and finally to grant a subsurface easement on the portion of real property located at 4505 South Maryland Parkway. With this in mind, I offer this for your consideration.
Thank you, President Whitfield. Is there any discussion or questions from the committee? Regent Brooks.
Thank you, Regent Bush, for the record. Can you let us know approximately what the sale value is of this property? Thank you.
For the record, Casey Wyman, VP of Finance, CFO at UNLV. And so the 2.35 acres was recently appraised at $8.19 million.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Chair.
Vice Chair Boylan, sorry I missed you.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, sir. Again, I'm going to ask this question. Now, this is on the south corner where the old school was, right?
Correct.
Where the
Yes, sir.
elementary school. Right. And the Boring Company at first said that they were going to buy the piece of land and put their operation on the north side, right in the Thomas and Mack Parking Center, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So that sounded good to me when they were going to do that because it makes it easy for the students to use and staff, et cetera, et cetera. So now do we have any deal with Boring Company that they will build a bridge across Tropicana? Will they build a tunnel under Tropicana into the parking lot of the Thomas and Mack? And then I have a question after that. Just two questions, sir.
Yeah. Thank you,
So do
Regent.
we have any deal? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Regent Boylan. David Fromer, UNLV. So in looking at this alternate site, there were some advantages seen by both UNLV and the boring company. The alignment of the tunnel is much, much more simpler, which doesn't require nearly as many easements on UNLV property to make the radius into the center of campus. And then putting a transit station in the middle of the UNLV parking operations area presented some challenges as well that we acknowledged and were ready to work around, but it's challenging. I think to your point, Regent Boylan, that probably the one challenge that comes up with this site is it is south and across the street at the Paradise campus across Tropicana. In conjunction with this, the Clark County Department of Public Works is in the process of developing their depressed roadway, which will take Tropicana underground. And as a part of that, for the high flow, they'll still have like a local surface road, but the majority of Tropicana will be a depressed roadway. And a part of that project includes building an at-grade bridge over that depressed roadway for pedestrian crossings. So we believe that the distance is not great, and with the Tropicana being depressed, the access will be reasonable for our students and anyone who uses that station to access our events at the Thomas and Mack Center or elsewhere. So we believe that on balance, this presents a lot of advantages, and I think we can manage with the depressed roadway the pedestrian access question.
Thanks, Mr. Frommer. I remember you telling me about the depressed roadway and, that Tropicana was going to be depressed. And you make me really happy because now the students can just walk across the bridge if they had to, if they wanted to use the boring company travel mode, right? So that's really nice for the students.
For the record, yes, that's correct. It would be essentially crossing the surface Tropicana, which will be a much diminished road, and a bridge over the depressed Tropicana. So it will be a much simpler crossing than Tropicana as we see it today.
And it'll be a safer crossing. So I really like you, Mr. Fromm. So my students will be safe, right? On crossing Tropicana, right?
Yes, that will be a safe crossing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee? Regent Goodman?
I'm so sorry. I know we're trying to move along. What happened to the other parcel that we approved initially? So what happens to that?
Yes, thank you for the question, Regent Goodman. David Frommer for the record. So that parcel is a UNLV-owned parcel that's in the middle of our, I believe it's the Scarlet parking lot, just west of our Tropicana parking garage. That will remain parking as it is today. It will also remain available if UNLV in its master plan were to look to redevelop it at some point.
Regent Brooks?
Thank you, Regent Brooks, for the record. I'm going to make a motion to approve the sale of a portion of real property located at 851 East Tropicana Avenue, and that all proceeds from that sale go back into the capital improvement account, not a general account fund. Thank you, Chair.
I think we have a motion. Do we have a second to the motion? Yes, Vice Chair Boylan.
Thank you, sir. My second question, Regent Brooks, I apologize, but I have to ask this question. Do we have any guarantees this time that this land has been sold and we'll get the money from the boring company? Not like the previous deal didn't go, it fell through. So did we make a proper deal that they can't get out of it? Did we get the land?
Yes, thank you for
the money.
Question. Thank you for the question, Regent Boylan. David Frommer for the record. So with the board authorization, we would proceed in negotiating a purchase and sale agreement, which has already been underway to help kind of negotiate basic terms. That's come a long way. We've worked with System Council as well as UNLV Council. So our next steps are to, with this, if the board were to approve this item, we would proceed with finalizing that purchase and sale agreement. I can't say that we guarantee the sale will go through because that's a final negotiation, but we have been working on that concurrently with the boring company. We have shared the appraised values with the boring company. So at this point, we have not heard any objections to the purchase and sale agreement, basic terms, and the appraised value.
Thank you, Mr. Frommer. That doesn't give me a warm, fuzzy feeling, but I understand where you're coming from. And Mr. Chair, thank you. Could I second the motion while I'm still talking and I have this microphone?
Yes, we have, so motion by Regent Brooks and a second by Vice
Thank you,
Chair
sir.
Boylan. Any further discussion on this? Any questions by members who are not, any Regents not on the committee? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to item number 11. Solicitation for design, build, contract, and financing of the UNLV Transit Center parking structure, resolution UNLV. President Whitfield?
Thank you, Chair. And again, for the record, Keith Whitfield, President of UNLV. The next and much-needed step in our UNLV Campus Master Plan is the construction of the UNLV Transit Center parking structure. This structure will provide over 1,250 parking spaces, and this request helps address the long-term parking needs created by our growing campus, both in facilities like the Advanced Engineering Building and our growing student population. We're also designing the Transit Center with as many alternate transportation options as possible to integrate with surrounding developments to better serve our UNLV community. Financing and repayment of the Transit Center parking structure are to be from parking revenue sources, which we anticipate will be sufficient. To further our campus master plan, UNLV is requesting approval to solicit for design build contract for the Transit Center project. With this in mind, I offer this for your consideration.
Regent Brooks?
Chair, I don't have any questions on,
Okay.
on this one right now. Thank you.
I got to look, okay.
Yep. Yes, I do, Chair. Thank you.
Any questions for President Whitfield or his staff? Yeah. Is there, yes, Regent Arascata.
Just simply stated right in the very second paragraph of the first page of the briefing paper. Since fees are maintained as low as possible for many years before the fall of 2021, this project will require a projected permit fee increase each fall of $3 per month going forward. When you're saying the permit fee, who is going to be doing the permit fee? Who's paying these fees? Who's that $3 a month being placed upon?
For the record, Casey Wyman, CFO UNLV. So the $3 increase will be for anyone who has the parking permits within that area. And so I anticipated you'd be specifically focused on the student piece of this. And so if you'd like, I can elaborate just a little bit more to be helpful. And so currently our annual parking pass for students is $282. $3 increase across 12 months would be a $36 increase to bring that up to $318 annually for their parking pass. And just as a point of comparison, the city of Las Vegas has their annual parking pass as well, and that is at $420.
Okay. Is this a premier parking pass or like, is that a close one to the proximity? Do a lot of students want to park here?
For the record, Casey Wyman, CFO UNLV. So we have the expert over at the Las Vegas camp, Mr. Mike Lawrence, who can talk through the parking study that was conducted. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mike Lawrence, UNLV, LAWRENCE, Associate Vice President for Administrative Services. This location on campus is actually very highly sought after across the Maryland Parkway corridor. It's next to or adjacent to the Student Union in Greenspun Hall. And so for those of you who visit the campus quite a bit, you know in front of the FDH building, it's very difficult to find parking. And even in that lot, we have reduced timeframes for our pay-by-phone app, and we don't allow individuals to renew because of the demand, and we need to be able to move customers along. And so this will help alleviate some of that. Also, it will help manage events at the Student Union. A lot of times there's events held and individuals have to walk further away from that building to be able to attend those events, and this is going to help alleviate that. So to answer your question, it's a very high demand area of campus for parking. Conversely, it also frees up our parking in the Thomas and Mack parking lots, which is open for events at the Thomas and Mack and allows that entity to be able to operate effectively.
Good input. Thank you.
Vice Chair Boylan?
Mr. Chair, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Now, I know it's top property, that piece of land, I know it well. And who's going to park there? Just students or the public or staff and admin? Who will be allowed to park there? Will it be just we can drive in there and, pay for it? Is that how you're looking at it?
Regent Boylan, again, Mike Lawrence. Yes, anybody in the community, just like as is now, can park there. However, they will have to pay a fee. We do allocate a certain percentage of our parking for faculty and staff, depending on the usage counts. We regularly look at those and make sure that we have a good balance. But for the most part, anybody can park there, again, as long as they pay the fee through any of our options that we allow.
So if I may, another question. The students' fee is increasing. It's going up to 318, did the young man say? So we're increasing student fees, but anybody can park in there. So this really doesn't help students too much. It's open to the public, not specifically for students. So it doesn't really, we cannot say that this is just for students, but they'll have a pass permit that they can go through and they'll pay extra fees. Right?
Regent Boylan, Mike Lawrence, I do understand your point. However, everybody who parks on campus pays for parking in some form or fashion.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
while the student fees are increasing, faculty, staff fees are increasing, as well as visitors to campus through the daily permits, et cetera. There will also be individuals who come for events and know that they will have to pay for parking as well. So with respect, everybody's fee is going up, but we will ensure that there is enough student allocation to meet the demands where possible. Again, we regularly look at what the demand is, how often student spaces fill up, and if we need to reallocate based upon that usage, we do that.
Thank you. And I know that everybody pays when they come there, but I'm really concerned about the students. So the fees that the students are now paying for parking anywhere, that's going to increase to 318, and then they can park here also. Is that how it's going to work? Or is this going to be just for this parking spot, the fees are going to go up?
Mike Lawrence, for the record, that will be all parking permits for all the UNLV campuses. So anybody who purchases a permit. Now, I will say that you're quoting the annual permit, but we offer different varieties, daily, weekly, temporary permits. And so we use the annual because that is actually the cheapest option for students, but we have many different options.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from members of the committee? Yes, Regent Brooks?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to just offer my own thought on this. I'm really having a hard time getting behind this one, and it really has to do with the amount of monies that are being asked. It's 62 million, and I'm just thinking about all the other financial asks that have come through the board regarding the campus, and for me, it just seems like it would be such a great benefit to understand financially where the institution currently sits and the way things are going to move as we go forward, rather than just the almost like the blank check writing that seems to be taking place. And so I'm just letting you know that's where I am with this. It really isn't much of a question, Chair. I appreciate your indulgence as much as it is just a statement of my concern. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion anyone wants to make, or? Okay, I could use some guidance here. Do we table it at this point, or what is the?
Yeah, that would, Chris Nielsen, for the record, that would be an option to table it, there's an option to postpone it, and obviously an option to vote it up or down.
Okay, since we don't have a vote, or do you have a motion you want to make?
I was, Regent Brooks, for the record, I just wanted to ask council, I believe that if there is an option that the board take no action. And that would be not having any motion at all. It's just the board's taking no action.
Yes, that'd be permissible as well.
Then I guess we will take no action on this item. Okay. Would that be, would we feel better about it if they brought back more information to a future meeting on this item if we tabled it? Seeking input from the committee.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Vice Chair Boylan?
Thank you, Chair. If we table this or we take no action, does that mean we can bring, the university can bring this back to us at our next meeting or at our next quarterly meeting? How would that work? Is that up to the university to ask for it again, or does it come back at a special meeting? Because I still have questions about charging the students more money. So how would that work? So if there's someone who can answer that.
My understanding.
I know you're the boss.
I would probably say it'd come back at the September meeting. I do have a question for President Whitfield or staff. Are student fees going to go up regardless about this passing?
For the record, Casey Wyman, CFO, UNLV. So we constantly monitor the fair market value for parking and fees associated with it. And so we don't aim to create profit associated with it. It's utilized to pay down debt services associated with all of our parking more at a holistic level. And so I would have to ask Mike Lawrence on the exact time of when we look at our parking fee increases and considerations associated with that. And then I think it's just warranted as well. You know, our parking situation obviously there's a demand signal to increase it. And then all of the fees associated with, not with just this one parking garage, but our holistic parking program pays for the debt service associated with this. And so we kind of look at it more at a holistic approach versus just an individual parking garage approach. Mike, would you like to add anything?
Yes, Mike Lawrence for the record. Thank you, CFO Wyman. Yes, our parking fees would go up. The parking fees may go up as our expenses increase because we do have a duty to maintain the parking lots and the facilities. It is expensive to keep those garages and lots operational. And so as CFO Wyman noted, we are 100% self-supporting. Their parking enterprise is strictly all revenue in versus expenses out, not to make a profit. So eventually, yes, the fees would have to go up to maintain the existing infrastructure.
Would they be going up at the rate of the $36 a year? Is that the expected increase?
That's not the current projection, and there would have to be discussions with administration about what that recommendation would be depending on this decision.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll table this until September. If you could bring back some more information so we can make a better decision.
Chair Downs?
Yes.
If I don't, Chris Nielsen for the record. I think that the technical, if you want to postpone it to a different date, it would be either take no action or a motion to move to a subsequent meeting. A motion to table would be keep it alive for just for today's meeting. So that's the difference.
Okay.
So if the intent is to move it to, of the committee to move it to a subsequent meeting or a later date, then the motion would be something along the lines of that, like motion to move to a date in the future.
If I have a motion then to move it to another date, then we'll do that. If not, it'll be no action. Yes.
Mr. Chair, good question, and Mr. Nielsen could answer this, I guess. So if we take no action, then it's over. Let's get to the next one, all right? To the next agenda item.
Vice Chair Boylan, that's correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman Downs,
Yes, Regent Tarkanian.
I served on the Transportation Committee when these infrastructures were being discussed. And at the time, they weren't going to be putting one on near the campus, but there were many, many people who came forward who voiced that they could use it because they don't have housing near the campus and it would help them. So maybe we could also have a representative from Transportation Committee come.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
When you do it the next time, if you would have someone, you might be able to see why they went this way.
Thank you. Regent Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to bring something up, just points of clarification in terms of how we can move. No action does not limit the institution's ability to bring this back another time through coordination with the system office and board staff. Certainly, they have that option to do that. The board can still take no action. Again, it doesn't mean that this won't be heard again, or it just means that we're not taking any action. Institution has an opportunity to do this differently. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, there seems to be no action on the item, so we'll move on to item number 12. Authorization to purchase real property consisting of 16 property parcels located in Reno, Nevada. For UNR, President Sandoval.
Thank you, Chair Downs, Vice Chair Boylan, members of the committee, Regents, and Chancellor. For the record, Brian Sandoval, President of the University of Nevada, Reno. Today, we respectfully request your favorable consideration for the purchase of 16 parcels comprising approximately 2.29 acres of land, residence, and apartments, which are essentially south of where we sit right now. In 2022, a housing needs assessment demonstrated the need for affordable housing for our faculty, students, and staff. This proposal is a significant step towards providing such housing and will assist with our retention and recruitment efforts. The housing is strategically located adjacent to the university's main campus, and we're excited to present this as the initial step in the development of a university village. As you heard from our graduate students, housing costs near the university and in the Reno area are significantly above affordable levels. This has become a major issue in recruiting and retaining faculty, staff, and graduate students. The property we propose to purchase consists, again, of 16 parcels with 15 single-family homes and 19 multifamily units, totaling 34 units. The rental income from these properties will cover both the purchase price and the necessary improvements. We have conducted inspections on the property, and we estimate the cost of updates and improvements at approximately $800,000. That would be carpet, paint, couple roofs, landscaping, things of that nature, appliances. These properties will be managed by the University of Nevada, Reno Real Estate Office, which does have extensive experience in managing similar properties. With recent expansions, as you recall, this committee, this board has approved other residential purchases by the university, and we have managed those until we have constructed a new building. For example, the engineering building was formerly residences. This purchase will add 34 units of affordable housing, all within a city block of the main campus. The purchase price of $6,481,670 is actually below the current appraised value of $7,450,000. This acquisition will be funded through the University Real Estate Acquisition Account and an internal loan from the UNR Strategic Project Funding Account. This project, we did present this project, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, to our faculty senate, which conducted a faculty survey. Approximately 2/3 of the respondents of that survey indicated that they favored such a purchase. So with that, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mr. Vice Chair, respectfully request your favorable consideration of this proposal, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sandoval. Do we have any? Regent Goodman.
I move to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve from Regent Goodman, a second from Regent Arascott, I believe. Any discussion?
Chair Downs,
yes.
Michael Wixon for the record, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I just want to point out one factor for the record. Regent Del Carlo is related to a party who's interested in the transaction, and she will be recusing herself from consideration of this item tomorrow when it's brought back to the board. But for clarity and for purposes of full disclosure, that recusal will take place tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, now we have to, we're going to go on to 13. We have First Amendment to lease of Sports Medicine Complex, Building Number 101, to Renowned Medical School, Associates North. President Sandoval.
Thank you, Chair Downs, Vice Chair Boylan, members of the committee, Regents, and Chancellor. For the record, Brian Sandoval, President of the University of Nevada, Reno. As the current lease expires on September 30, 2024, we are seeking your approval for the First Amendment to the lease agreement in order to continue the lease of space at the Sports Medicine Complex building on the UNR campus to Renowned Medical School Associates North. It literally is less than 100 yards from where we sit right now. This amendment would extend the lease for 36 months, and the rent would be $11,897 per month, paid by Renowned Medical School Associates North to the university. The continuation of the lease supports the goals and objectives of our affiliation agreement with Renown. As I mentioned, it's very conveniently located on our campus. So as such, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, I respectfully request your favorable consideration of this item, and of course would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sandoval. Are there any questions?
Motion for approval as presented.
We have a motion for approval from Regent Arascata.
Second.
We have a second from Regent Goodman. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to number 14. First Amendment to lease lease at, I think it was an acronym, 2280 North McDaniel Street in North Las Vegas for Cooperative Extension UNR. President Sandoval?
Thank you, Chair Downs, Vice Chair Boylan, members of the committee, Regents, and Chancellor. For the record, Brian Sandoval, President of the University of Nevada, Reno. This next lease amendment before you is located, as you mentioned, 2280 North McDaniel Street in North Las Vegas, and is currently occupied by the Cooperative Extension. The current lease expires on October 31, 2024, and we are seeking your approval for the First Amendment to the lease agreement in order to continue this lease. The space is a key part of being able to provide program opportunities for North Las Vegas residents and in the broader community in Southern Nevada. The extension, again, is for 36 months with one option of an additional 2-year term, and the funds have already been allocated by Clark County to pay for this lease obligation. So with that, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, we respectfully request your favorable consideration of this agenda item and happy to answer your questions if you have any. Thank you.
Question.
Thank you, President Sandoval. Yes, Regent Arascata.
President Sandoval, when was the original lease signed? Or how long has the University of Nevada, Reno had presence in this building?
I don't know, Mr. Chair, to you and through you to Vice Chair, to Mr. Regent Arascata, I may seek some assistance there. I know we have been in there, but I don't know how long we have been in there. My hero.
Chair, Committee, Troy Miller, Assistant Vice President for Community and Real Estate for the record. We moved in there approximately 3 years ago. This is a renewal for an additional 3 years with a 2-year option, as the building has been working within the way they needed to.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
You're welcome.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Regent Arascata. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Vice Chair Boylan. Any discussion?
I have one quick question. I know we're trying to move along, but I just want.
Goodman, that's fine.
I love that you're here. I love what you're doing. Is there I mean, it's in Las Vegas. Is there a reason that UNLV isn't there, or just had to ask the question? Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, to you and through you to Regent Goodman. So this is an office of our cooperative extension, which is throughout the state. One of the things that we recognized 3 years ago when we took this space, that there were many services that were necessary that cooperative extension provides in North Las Vegas, hence that. So we do have partnerships with UNLV and work UNLV, but it will be the cooperative extension that is the tenant in this building. But as I said, we have some collaborations, and as I can say with my friend and colleague, President Whitfield, we have the hashtag Better Together, and we are working together through cooperative extension. I can't answer your question as we speak, what specifically those activities may be, but we are working with UNLV.
Okay, so I believe we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 I vote aye as well. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we're on to new business. Are there any items of new business for consideration at a future meeting? Seeing none, we will go on to public comment. Is there any public comment at GBC?
There is no public comment at GBC at this time.
Is there any public comment at, thank you, any public comment at the system office in Las Vegas?
There is no public comment in Las Vegas.
Thank you. Is there any public comment here at UNR? I see none. SCS, is there any public comment on the phone?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Caller with the number ending in 0550, please press star 6 to unmute. State and spell your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the committee. They're not unmuting. There's no other callers at this time.
Yeah, thank you. We will adjourn this meeting.